It's wild how some chess openings get branded, right? Take the Scandinavian defense, 1, e4, d5.
Hmm.
A lot of players, maybe especially if they're used to the main lines after 1.e5, might think of it as a bit, well, maybe a bit basic or even reckless.
Yeah, beginner's opening is something you hear.
Exactly. But get this. In online amateur games, black actually wins more often with 1.d5 than with the super solid 1.e5.
Is that right? What are the numbers?
We're looking at something like a 47% win rate versus 45% according to Lichess data,
Yeah.
which is pretty significant when you think about it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's this direct, almost rebellious answer to White's most common first move. And despite that reputation, it seems to throw a curveball that, well, amateurs struggle with more often than the classical stuff.
Well, what's really interesting is how it works fundamentally. Black just immediately challenges the center with d5 right away.
No messing around.
It aims to disrupt White's plan from move 1, and it opens lines for the queen and the light-squared bishop super early.
Which, if you think about basic opening advice, control the center, develop pieces, it actually does that, doesn't it?
It absolutely ticks those boxes. It might look a bit odd compared to 1.e5, but it's fighting for that key central territory straight away.
Right. And that's really the whole point of this deep dive. We've gathered a bunch of different perspectives here.
Oh, yeah. What do we got?
We've got transcripts from YouTube videos looking at traps and ideas, a blog post from a chess retailer, a chess.com article for beginners that actually recommends it,
Interesting.
another chess.com blog focusing on, like, the ultimate Scandi expert, and even bits from a book just on this opening.
Okay, so a good mix.
Yeah. And our mission really is to just boil all this down for you, give you a shortcut to understanding the Scandinavian, the core ideas, the pros, the cons.
And potential pitfalls.
Exactly. And maybe, inspire you to give it a whirl in your own games.
So let's tackle that effectiveness question first. Why is it surprisingly good, especially maybe below the master level?
Well, one huge reason that jumps out from the sources is bypassing theory. Loads of theory.
Ah, the 1.e5 problem.
Totally. Respond 1.e5, and you've got to prep for the Ruy Lopez, the Italian, the Scotch, King's Gambit. It's endless.
Right.
With the Scandinavian, you're basically saying, okay, 1e4, my answer is d5. You focus your study.
And that often means black actually knows the specific Scandi lines better than white does. Because white has to know everything.
Makes total sense. It's like specializing.
And it's not just about less homework.
No, apparently it's a real weapon in faster games, like blitz.
Yeah, I can see that. The aggressive nature, open lines quickly.
It can lead to quick attacks that just catch people completely off guard if they're not ready for it.
Plus, there's maybe a psychological angle. White might just be on autopilot expecting e5 and suddenly d5. Throws them off a bit.
Could be. And those stats you mentioned earlier are pretty compelling. That higher win rate suggests a real practical edge.
Mm-hmm. Some sources also mention how straightforward the piece development can be in some lines. Easy plans to remember.
Like what?
Well, you often get these easy-to-follow setups. And importantly, that exchange on d5 forces white to give up their central pawn.
In exchange for tempo, right? Because they attack the queen.
Exactly. They get a move attacking the queen, but black dictates the pawn structure. And sometimes it leads to structures players know from other openings, like the Caro-Kann.
Okay, so familiar territory sometime.
Right. Can lead to unbalanced positions too, which might offer black long-term chances. And your opponent just might not know the theory as well.
Okay, sounds pretty good so far. But let's not gloss over the elephant in the room.
The queen.
The queen, too. xd5, q xd5, bringing the big gun out on move 2. That flies in the face of classical opening principles, doesn't it?
It does. That's the main criticism, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exposing the queen early gives white a target.
Yeah, seems like you're just asking for trouble, letting them develop pieces by kicking your queen around.
And they do gain tempi, that's true. But, and this is crucial in our sources, it's not necessarily fatal if black knows how to handle it.
The if.
Exactly. There are well-established, solid ways to deal with that pressure. You just have to know them.
All right, so let's get into that. After 2xd5, the most common move is 2.qxd5, the Mises-Kocher variation.
Correct. And white's almost automatic reply is 3, nc3, attack the queen.
Makes sense? And black.
The standard, most recommended move is 3q5.
Okay, why q5?
It keeps the queen active, influencing the center and queen side, but tucks it away onto a safer square. It's not easily attacked there immediately.
Gotcha. So what's the plan after Q5?
Typically, black follows up fairly soon with taunt C6.
Ah, I saw that mentioned. Why
It's
C6?
multi-purpose. It creates an escape hatch for the queen, maybe back to C7 later if needed. It defends D5, it controls B5. Very useful pawn move.
Okay.
Then you often see development like ND7, NF6, point E6. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
The light-squared bishop often goes to G4 if white plays NF3, pinning the knight.
Common theme.
And if white plays, say, BD2 to eye the queen, black can just calmly retreat QC7. It's a solid setup. You get a decent pawn structure, nice developed active bishop.
Seems resilient. Are there weak points white looks for? And I think I saw something about black maybe attacking H2 with the bishop later, like
Yeah.
BD6.
Yes, BD6 aiming at H2 is definitely a potential idea in some lines. A little hidden threat, good for faster chess, as you said. As for weaknesses, maybe the coordination can sometimes be slightly awkward if white plays precisely, but generally it's considered quite solid.
Okay, so that's the main queen takes line. What's the alternative, the modern variation?
Right. After 2xe5, black can instead play 2-point NF6.
Boarding the queen move entirely.
Exactly, a completely different idea. The knight comes out immediately to challenge white's center or recapture the pawn.
So a more positional approach, less confrontational early on.
You could say that. It often appeals to players who want to avoid those early tactical skirmishes involving the queen.
So how does white usually respond to 2-point NF6?
Well, if white plays the natural 3 and C3,
Defending E4 still, or preparing to meet NXD5?
more like preparing for NXD5, black can just play 3-point NXD5, and if white trades 4, NXD5, QXD5.
Ah, so the queen does come to D5 eventually.
Yes, but crucially, without that immediate tempo loss from NC3 hitting it. It's a much calmer way to centralize the queen. Queens often get traded early here, too.
Okay, so maybe better for players who like quieter middle games. Less chaos.
Potentially,
Okay.
yes. But white has another try after 2-point F6.
What's that?
They can try to hang on to the pawn with 3C4.
Oh, greedy.
A bit,
Yeah.
but black has counterplay, usually 3-point E6. And if white takes 4d by d6, black recaptures with the bishop, 4-point B stay 6.
So black's down a pawn.
Down a pawn, yes, but way ahead in development. The pieces come out fast, open e-file, maybe QE7, threatening discovered checks, BB4, plus lots of activity.
Compensation.
Definitely compensation, often considered enough.
So it really isn't just a one-trick pony, this Scandinavian. Different flavors.
Not at all.
Now, what if white tries something different on move 2 instead of taking the pawn? Are those just blunders?
Mostly, yeah. The sources suggest they're usually not great. Like if white tries 2e5, pushing the pawn.
Trying to clamp down?
Yeah, but it just makes that e5 pawn a target. Black plays 2-point c5, hitting d4, undermining e5. Then maybe bg4, pinning a knight if it comes to f3. Black usually just wins that pawn back with a good position.
Okay, so don't push e5. What about 2 NC3 defending?
Also not great. Black just plays 2-point d5 anyway.
Oh, right. Attacks the knight.
Exactly. The knight has to move again, probably back to where it came from, and black has gained central space. Trying fancy knight moves like nb5 or nd5 usually just gets chased away by pawns.
Doesn't sound promising for white. And 2d3. Seems really passive.
It is passive. After the pawns trade on d5, the d-file is open. Black can just offer a queen trade, qxd1 plus win.
And white has to take back with the king.
Yep. King takes d1. Stuck in the center, can't castle. Not what you want on move 3.
So it seems like 2xd5 is really the only serious try for white.
Pretty much. The alternatives give black easy equality or even an advantage.
But white isn't always playing for equality. What about aggressive tries? Gambits?
Ah, yes. There are definitely some gambits white can throw at you. One is the black Mardimer gambit.
How does that come up?
It can transpose after 1 d4 d5 2, e4 d by e4, but sometimes people play 1 e4 d5 2, d4 d by a4 3, nc3, ns6 4, f3. White sacrifices a pawn for rapid development and attack.
Is it any good?
Considered a bit dubious at the top level, but for amateurs, it can be really dangerous if you don't know how to meet it. Black needs to know the lines after attack xf3 and xf3.
Right. Need to be prepared. What else? The Tennyson gambit.
Yeah, that starts 1, e4, d5 2, and f3. Looks weird, right? Ignoring the d5 pawn.
Very weird.
After 2.d by e4, white plays 3, and g5, attacking the pawn back.
Okay.
Now, if black plays the natural-looking 3-point nf6 to defend, uh-oh.
Oh, why?
Because white has this crazy trap called the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile variant.
It's cheating?
Nope, it goes
Yeah.
4, d3, x, d3, 5, bx, d3, and if black plays the tempting 5-r6 to kick the knight,
Looks normal.
it leads to 6 and xf7, sacrificing the knight for the pawn.
Wow.
If takes f7, then 7, bg6 plus check, king has to take, king is g6 and 8, qxd8 wins the queen.
Ouch. That's brutal. Okay, note to self, be careful against 2 and F3.
Definitely need to know that one. And speaking of traps, one of the YouTube videos we looked at focused on a specific gambit within the main lines.
Oh yeah, which one?
After 1 e4 d5,
Mm-hmm.
xd5 qxd5 3 nc3 q f 4 d4, white plays 4.b4.
Well, black plays b4, sacrificing a pawn.
No, sorry, white plays 4. d4, then black might play something else. But the video highlighted a white gambit line involving white sacrificing the b pawn after black plays something like c6. Let me recheck that.
Ah, okay, the video actually focuses on a different gambit line. 1 e4 d5 2, x d5 qx d5 3, nc3 qa5 4, d4, and now white might play something like 4, nf3 first. The trap highlighted was more complex. Let me find the exact line.
Okay. These traps can get complicated. Right, found it. It was a white gambit idea involving sacrificing the f7 pawn. The video, Crush the Scandinavian Defense in 8 Moves, shows this line. 1 e4 d5 2, x d5 qx d5 3, nc3 qx c5, 4 d4 nf6 5, nf3 bg4 6, h3 bshive 7, g4 bg6 8, nef5. This isn't quite the b4 gambit mentioned in the outline, but it's a common attacking setup. However, let's look at that specific b4 gambit mentioned in another source. 1 e4 d5 2, xd5 qxd5 3, nc3 qe5 4 d4, and here black tries 4.b4. This move itself looks dubious, attacking the knight. Maybe the source meant white sacrificing the b2 pawn.
Maybe the outline had a slightly different line in mind, like 1.e4 d5, 2x d5, 3.c3, qf3, nf6 5.bc4, and maybe here black plays something provocative.
That seems more plausible. Now, if black plays carelessly, say 5a 5-6, d4 e6 7, bd2 c6, the setup looks solid, but
What's the trap?
8 nd5, attacking the queen and threatening nc7 plus or nb6 plus. If the queen moves, say 8 qd8, then 9, f6 plus gi f6, white has wrecked black's structure. A different trap, but effective. The key point is, white often gets attacking chances against the queen.
Okay, so the theme is, the queen can be a target, and white has specific ways to exploit careless play.
Exactly. Even if black avoids immediate disaster, white can often build pressure. There are lines with bb2, bc3, rb1 creating x-rays and discovered attacks. Black needs to be vigilant.
So what's the safe way for black to handle that early pressure in the 3q5 line?
Well, playing moves like .c6 early helps create escape squares. And developing sensibly, like nf6, point e6, point e7, knowing when to retreat the queen to c7. It's about specific move orders sometimes.
It sounds like understanding the plans and potential threats is more important than just memorizing moves.
Absolutely. That came up strongly in the chess.com beginner article too. Focus on principles. Center control, development, king safety. Understand the ideas behind the Scandinavian, why the queen goes to a5, what point c6 achieves. That's more valuable than rote learning.
Makes sense. And speaking of really understanding the opening, the sources pointed to one grandmaster in particular, Sergei Tivyakov.
Ah, yes. Mr. Scandinavian himself, almost.
He's known for playing it a lot, right? Even at the highest level, specifically the 3qd6 variation.
That's his specialty, yes. Not 3q5, but 3qd6. He reached a 2700 FID rating playing it consistently, which really says something about his viability.
A 2700 player using a beginner's opening.
Exactly. Shows the depth. His games are apparently very instructive, especially on how to use it to beat lower-rated players as he plays in many open tournaments.
And he favors a solid setup, like with pawn c6.
Often, yes. A solid 5-point c6 approach within the 3qd6 lines. He's described as a moving target. He adapts his setups, so opponents can't just prepare one line against him.
So even strong GMs can be out of their preparation quite early against him.
Apparently so. It highlights that if you really know an opening, even one considered slightly offbeat, you can pose serious problems for anyone. Tivyakov's deep understanding of the resulting middle games is often the key.
That really underlines the value of specialization, going back to what we said earlier.
Definitely.
Okay, bringing it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Any really famous, iconic Scandinavian games we should know about?
Well, there was a game in the 1995 World Championship match. Anand had white against Kasparov, I believe. Anand got an advantage out of the opening, but the game was complex and decided later on. It wasn't like the opening was refuted.
Okay.
A more classic example often cited is Bent Larsen beating Anatoly Karpov with it. That was a huge upset back then and showed the surprise value against even the very best.
Larson, yeah, he played unusual openings.
Exactly. And for anyone wanting to dig deeper, you can just search online databases 365chess, chessgames.com, filter by the opening code B01, and you'll find tons of games.
Good tip. Okay, so let's try and summarize this deep dive. It really seems the Scandinavian defense is, well, surprisingly potent.
Yeah, especially maybe below the elite levels. It's direct, it challenges white immediately.
And it lets you sidestep a mountain of theory compared to 1.E5.
Big practical advantage.
That early queen development is the main talking point, the main potential drawback.
But it's manageable if you understand the key lines, like through Q5 or maybe Tibikov's 3QD6. Know the typical plans and are aware of the traps.
Right. Master the main lines, watch out for tricks, understand the why behind the moves. That seems to be the recipe.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And that applies to any opening, really. Understanding principles and plans beats rote memorization every time.
So the takeaway for you, the listener, if you play 1d4 and want something different, maybe something that embraces tactical possibilities and can catch opponents off guard,
Or if you're looking for a reliable, focused defense against E4.
the Scandinavian is definitely worth considering. Check out Tivikov's games, explore those main variations, 3Q5, 2-point NF6, and keep an eye out for those gambits and traps we mentioned. Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over.
Given those stats showing its success at amateur levels and the variety of strategic options it offers, from solid to sharp, is the Scandinavian actually an underappreciated opening that deserves way more attention, maybe even from stronger players too?
Something to think about on your own chess journey.
Definitely food for thought.